All right, we are live, Final Cut Pro TV live. We're going to talk about Final Cut Pro, and we're going to talk about NAB with our special guest, Jeff Greenberg at Film Geek from Twitter. Hey, Jeff, what's up?
I am in that NAB crunch where I'm not going to sleep until I see you next.
What? Okay, here we go. I had to mute the YouTube channel. It was coming through.
Sure.
I don't know if you heard that or not.
I heard a little of it. I was just saying that I've begun my sojourn without sleep.
You are? You have?
Yeah, I have. I have a lot I'm teaching this year at NAB, and
no,
you have to go to 2 parties every night too, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, simultaneously.
Yeah, so I'm mostly trying to just survive, and my goal is to leave. I actually leave on Thursday to go to Vegas.
Oh, is that right?
Everything done by Thursday.
Everything? I bet that's not true. I bet you're going to be doing some stuff on Thursday night and Friday. And
if I am on Friday, I hope I'm done, because my goal is to go into my sessions without anything extra. I mean, it could happen. It could happen. I have 2 full-day classes I'm doing. One on learning to color correct and resolve. It's a hands-on class. And the other is an all-day post in VR class. Post in VR. I'm doing with Nick Caruso. And I just had to show up at my house this Views camera, which is a $800 stereoscopic VR camera. And that means not only do you see that flat video, things really appear 3D and real up close. It's pretty amazing.
So is this your first venture into 3D?
I've been I've actually played around with 3D back in the stereoscopic days. I want to say about 6-7 years ago. And thank God you probably have never dealt with a depth transition, which is when you cut from a close up to a wide shot, you need to help the person's eyes realign to the depth change. But I think you meant VR, and I've been doing VR.
I meant VR, 360.
I've been doing 360 for about 2.5 years, thanks to the guys over at Metal. Chris Babatis was the first one. He and Dashwood I probably met within the same couple months. But I'm doing a class on budget VR. And I'll just tell you the answer now is use whatever editing tool you want to use. Final Cut's a great choice for this. And the cheapest camera that I can get that I would say is worth playing with, this little Samsung 360. This is a $100 VR camera.
That is absolutely nuts. $100. What? That's crazy.
You're frozen.
Oh,
I'm waiting for you to come back. There you go.
Okay, yeah. We're both on Xfinity. They're throttling both of us at the same time, it seems like.
It certainly feels that way. This little $100 camera sits in your pocket, and it's a great way for you to experiment and start playing with VR. And then if you want to get, this is about the cheapest stereoscopic camera, which is the Views. They're both going to be part of this talk I do, which is where I walk through what you need to do, how you handle VR video. And it's significantly different it's not significantly different than flat video. It just has a couple caveats about like where the camera's focused at. It's neat stuff.
So you use it on Final Cut and Premiere, I presume?
I use it in both platforms. I think that I'm seeing very aggressive development by the Premiere team, especially when it talks to things like After Effects. I think Apple has done a tremendous job in getting their 1.0 of their VR tools out. I have to say that it just instantly recognizes and handles the VR material, which is easier than having to add an effect or make an adjustment.
Absolutely.
So they're both great tools for it. Let's just say that they're better than other NLEs for cutting VR.
Oh, they're both of those are your favorites then, Premiere and Final Cut.
I have no favorites, Richard. I have no favorites. I hate them all or I love them all, depending on the day of the week.
Exactly. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Sometimes there's a bug fix that's needed to happen that hasn't happened yet, Final Cut team. So
I was just reading today. Are you aware of any AVC HD problems with Final Cut 10.4?
AVC HD. I don't. Do I shoot? I don't know if I even shoot it. I've read those. No, I absolutely read those. Yes.
I mean, it's a very squarely. Anytime you see MTS files, I cringe. But I just had somebody telling me they're having problems, and I'm probably going to recommend they look at the tool Edit Ready, which
Yes.
has a really unique, cool feature, which is it can concatenate. It can put together those multiple MTS streams into a clean QuickTime container. It's a hell of a tool.
It is. It's a very good tool. And who is the guy that does that? Do you remember his name? Is it Ryan?
It's embarrassing. It's Mike something.
Mike. Well, he gave us a free copy of that, a complimentary copy that when we attended the Creative Summit last year.
Yeah, I'm looking up because I think it's let's see if anything. I have too many Mikes. I know.
You're right. It is Mike something.
Is it Divergent Media? Is that the name of the company? If so, it's
Sounds good. Yeah.
Mike Woodsworth. Well, no, I should know. So I made a joke at a conference, which is and I'll explain what this. It's a silly joke. You know, Richard, if you ever have to explain a joke, you know it's a bad joke. So,
well, yeah. Go ahead.
I turned to him and I said, "Oh, yes, I'm a master trainer on that tool." And he goes, "Well, what's a master trainer?" And I said, "It's somebody who gets hired to teach train the trainer classes so they can bless people. And I'm it for multiple tools. Final Cut, Avid. It's very, this is like my little general stars. I got about 4 of them."
Absolutely.
He turns to me and he goes, "Well, you can be the only master trainer for Divergent Media for Edit Ready." And I'm like, "That's great. It's another new little star."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's very cool.
So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Edit Ready. There are a couple things like any tool that I wanted to do more, but it means that I'm using it. I actually found out about them because of Scopebox. And Scopebox is probably, for me, the best second set of scopes that you can get your hands on. I think Final Cut 10 scopes are nice, but right. I like to spit out from Final Cut Pro to a Blackmagic Mini out, a Blackmagic Mini in on a second computer, and pull that in and use that for really high quality scopes. That gives me an image. They have a neat feature where when you look at your waveform monitor, it actually will show you the colors of what you're looking at. It's really a gorgeous way of looking. It helps me think in scopes. It really does.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. I've seen that demonstrated at different events.
Yeah, I just wish, well, you technically can use it inside of the same. Final Cut Pro can output directly to it. You don't need 2 computers. You can actually tell it to use it like it was an external monitor. It's a great tool, Scopebox. Let's do it like this. Now that Final Cut 10 has got really good color tools, you can up that ante by putting on a really extra good scope with Scopebox.
There you go.
They're great guys. What are you interested in seeing at NAB, Richard? What should I go see?
Well, you're not going to have any time. I mean, you booked in 2 classes at the same time. You got to run back and forth across the hall to teach simultaneous classes. So,
you joke about that. I actually did that one year.
Did you really?
Taught 2 certification classes, Motion, and I think it was Avid at the same time. And I worked with 2 other instructors, and we scheduled the day, and I ran out of one room into the next just to see if I could do it. And turns out you can do it if you're willing to. I think it was a lot of Red Bull and cocaine maybe helped.
Well, I don't know about the second one, but the first one. So down in Washington, there was 2 nightclubs that were across the street down on M Street. And one night at midnight, I think it was New Year's Eve, the Nighthawks were playing one club. George Thorogood was playing the other club, and they arranged to start the same song at the same time. And the guitar players, Jimmy Thackeray and George Thorogood, crossed the street and joined the other band.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty legendary down in DC.
No, I have a lot of time on Tuesday and Wednesday to see the floor. I made sure to limit how much, and I'm absolutely going to be at LumaForge's. What is it? Faster Together. I'm definitely doing 2 talks at their suite. I told them last year that I needed to be able to make the show floor. And then there's is it Monday? When's the Final Cut Guru event?
Monday night, 5 to 6:30, South Hall.
Yeah, I'll definitely be there. Oh, good. It's at South Hall. That's perfect.
Yes. Yes. Well, what I didn't know this. So I was talking to Noah Cadner about FCP Exchange. He was on Final Cut Pro Radio. And I said, well, this year it's not just FCP Works, it's also LumaForge. I mean, it's also LumaForge and Future Media Concepts. And he explained to me that Future Media Concepts was involved last year as well. This year, they decided to make it official because Future Media Concepts donates that room, or it makes it that room available to them, because it's right in the middle of all the Future Media Concept sessions. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, to tell you the truth. I'm technically their head trainer, but I quit about 7 years ago.
Right.
They run an event called Post-Production World, and I've been doing that since 2004. And for those of you who aren't familiar, basically, it's 200 educational sessions at NAB, 10 tracks, 5 classes per room. So over about the 5 days, it's 200 to 250 classes. Wow. I actually start teaching on Saturday. The Final Cut Creative Summit came together partially because of Noah and FCP Works, partially because of Sam Messman and myself. And I did it under the FMC umbrella. And while they were doing the NAB stuff, I said, it's silly to FMC why you're not working with these people. You have a spare room, donate it, and you can now have involvement, because you need better visibility in the FCP community beyond just the Creative Summit. And that's what they did. I should be peeking my head in at least once or twice. When's most of that going? That's Monday?
Monday from 5 to 6:30. The main draw for that event is Apple Product Marketing is presenting. Okay. So last year, that's where they made the 2 million plus seat announcement. Worldwide debut was at that event. We're expecting something this year. I mean, I'm expecting something. Nobody said anything to me. I'm expecting some other kind of announcement at that event.
This is Apple's standard problem, is how do they keep saying something new? I've heard it said, I won't mention a name, but I've heard it said inside of Apple that they're not allowed to really talk and promote unless they have something to promote.
Well, I agree with that. So they already did their presentation at LACPUG in January. Okay. There's no sense in just repeating that again at NAB, in my opinion.
None at all. None at all.
Exactly. So something else is going on. I mentioned to you, I'm not sure if it was on or off the air, that the Final Cut Pro 10.4 has had no bug updates, 0, and this is the 4th month. So what better time than to do something with an update than NAB?
That's an astute observation. Can we shoot for the stars? Can we do what we're not allowed to do? Right? Neither of us work for Apple.
That's right.
I would love for them to talk about a pre-announcement of the modular Macintosh. If I were Apple and I were going to try and approach the pro user, there's a chance that I'm going to get a nasty phone call. I will tell you, I'm not under any Apple NDAs at this moment for anything current. Right. I'm just really speculating. But if I look back at the Creative Summit in October,
end of October, yes,
right, they did something unparalleled. They said, here's what Final Cut 10.4 looks like before it ever gets released. Here's the iMac Pro. We played with it for a month. We played for it a month before it came out. A month, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Now, if I were Apple trying to leverage this group, this audience, the professional people at NAB, that would be a hell of a great place to show off a brand new modular Mac Pro in the year 2018. What do you think?
I think that would be phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. I was just talking about an update to Final Cut Pro. I know. I like your idea.
I'm going to shoot first. Look, I went and I bought my Mega Million lottery ticket. I lost there. Maybe I'll get this one right.
There you go. How much was it up to?
It was up to 500 and something $million, and the payout was over 300 million. And that's the part where I will be parted with some money, is when I know that I have 1 in 300 million chance. By the way, that's about a dollar a second for 10,000 years.
Wow.
So your odds and the money are about the same. So if you bet a new pick every second, somewhere in 10,000 years, you'll randomly hit the right answer.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like your idea, Jeff. I like my idea too. I mean, the thing about an update at NAB, the fact that they haven't had one in 4 months, well, it'll be 4 months at NAB, is that I'm not talking about a bug fix. I'm talking about maybe a couple new features plus a bug fix.
You're talking 14.10.
10.4.1 or where whatever the acronym could be 0.5. Who knows?
No, I would go to a 0.1. They don't ever do, I don't think they do 0.5s anymore. It would be 10, 14. If it's a bug fix, 10.4. If it's a bug fix, it'll be 10.4.01. If they add something, it'll be a 0.1. And it had not really crossed my attention that they had not done a bug fix. And I think that's unusual.
Exactly.
Well,
here's the thing, Jeff. Yeah. Here's the thing. Okay. 10.2 came out, bug fix within 30 days. 10.3 came out, bug fix within 30 days. 10.4 comes out, 4 months, 0. So I suspect they're holding it off for NAB.
That's why I said I think it's a very astute observation. Generally speaking, all software manufacturers will release a tool and they will wait 30 days before having any bug fix. They just crash to get the software out. They got the software out and it's going to have bugs, no matter how great it is.
That's correct. There goes Xfinity.
Heart rate monitor that may have bugs, but all software is going to have bugs.
Absolutely. I think everybody that's...
I don't know how much of me you just lost there. I'm going to wait and see if the stream stabilizes.
It will. It will. Am I back on now? So I'm watching the YouTube. It looks like it's okay. It might freeze on us, but the YouTube is still going strong.
Coming back. You look like you.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, and you're back.
There you go. I said that the YouTube stream looks okay. So.
Right. We went robotic, or at least you did.
Yes.
The thing that I find it very unusual not to see a bug fix. Now that you've called my attention to it, I'm more willing. I think the odds are higher in your favor of them coming out with some like that. It would make really logical sense for them to do. I'm trying to think, what feature could they add?
I have a few.
What? Tell me.
Well, I want to see some kind of audio mixer still.
Yeah, the problem I think with them saying yes on an audio mixer is, and then they're kind of admitting Lanes wasn't everything they wanted Lanes to be.
However, Jeff, for 6 years they told us about the color board, and people wanted color wheels. Now we have color wheels, so I don't.
I'll tell you the truth. I think the color wheels are nice. I'm in love with the curves, and I'll tell you my favorite feature is the eyedropper on the curves, especially for things like Q versus SAT. Give you eyedroppers just where you need them. Now Resolve has those sort of eyedroppers,
okay,
but they're really well implemented in Final Cut 10. I mean, really well implemented. It's one of the things that I think while there are some great third-party plugins for Final Cut, Apple really hit the ball hard when they added curves and wheels to Final Cut 10.
Exquisite. I love those.
I would be curious. I'm sure Apple doesn't survey and accrue data, but I would be really curious today what the breakdown is of people who use the color board versus wheels versus that. I've done lots of training.
Right. Oh, there we go with the Comcast. You did pay your bill, right? See, I'm not frozen on my end. You're frozen.
It's totally my side.
Well, listen, when you talk about when I mentioned the audio mixer, there's absolutely a way you can do an audio mixer with rolls. Absolutely.
I can think of a couple ways to do it. It's just that, and it needs it.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it
does.
needs it. The idea that I would mix stuff by first nesting it, or by compound clipping the audio, or by
Right.
exporting it first, it's just insane.
It is. I don't like doing that. I go to Logic, so
It's probably the best place to do it is Logic. But yeah, I think that's something big that's missing.
What about you? What would you like to see for a feature?
I would like to see. I would love to see something. I still want something bigger and better around the browser, the clip browser itself. It's not that it feels clunky, it feels very visual, but as that super sort of crazy organized editor, when I see somebody with like 40 keywords, it kind of becomes cumbersome. So I would love to see them allow your libraries to populate. Here, this is crazy. I'd like to see Apple build a MAM system. I'd like to see them build or purchase a group like Keyflow Pro. I'd like to see them intelligently have sort of a master library database that's keeping low-res proxies or just stills of my footage. There's one that I would love to have.
And even offline libraries.
I mean offline libraries.
Oh, okay.
I mean that. I mean
Gotcha.
that if I build a library, you sit back, you index it, you take stills of all of it, so I could quickly say, bring up everything that I've ever done with a certain keyword and tell me what I got to go get to make it happen.
Yes, I love that. Yep, absolutely.
I think I want that. And then I saw the one on fcp.co. I really want true collaborative workflows. Two of us in the library at the same time working on a project.
I've heard people talk about that with Avid, of course, them being the king, and I think Premiere has something now, but it's not really working on the same timeline at the same time in Avid, is it? Because you have to get somebody to get off, and then you got to get back on.
I can skin this any way you want. You want me to do this Avid style? I'll do this Avid style.
Go ahead.
Avid style, you're the key editor, you're doing work. I'm your assistant editor. I'm building bins at the same time for you.
Bins,
in the same
yes.
project, okay? I might be doing string out timelines. I could be cutting a scene. And the moment that I hit save and I close the bin, you're able to get access to it. I don't have to send you an XML, anything. We're just literally in the same project. You pick up the phone because you're in Suite B and you go, hey, could you take that time on the timeline right now? There's a clip that needs some tracking and some obscuring. I'll take it. I'll make a duplicate of the sequence. I'll fix those shots. I'll then, when you're done, slug them in for you. Oh, we have a guy in a third room on the symphony who's doing a color correction of your early pass. And so he's color correcting in the same timeline because it understands what the media is. All that can occur simultaneously inside a Media Composer. Resolve has that same sort of level of ability with some conflict resolvement. Avid doesn't need conflict resolvement because it doesn't, it will, once you open a bin, it's locked to me.
Right.
Adobe is something called Team Projects, which allows multiple users inside the same project, just in a little different flavor. Again, conflict resolution occurs. But it's the idea that maybe you're my After Effects guy and you're opening up the same project and you've seen these clips and you're working in After Effects. The moment you hit save, it updates in my timeline.
Wow.
So,
is that reliable?
I'm sorry?
Is that reliable? Does it work effectively? I mean,
I would say
the resolution of conflicts.
I would say if we're on the same SAN, yeah. It absolutely does. When you go to hit a save, it says, hey, what were the changes? So I can tell the other person. The other person can say, okay, I see there have been changes made. Let me go ahead and ripple them into the project as I work. It's pretty robust. Avid is still, in a lot of ways, the king of that sort of technology. Resolve is also very good with it. But who have I not mentioned in those three names there? Where is Apple? And I could give you the counter argument. The counter argument is Apple was so empowering with the tool Final Cut at $300 that there's not a tremendous demand beyond network level for multi-user environments. If Apple, tries to go down that pro route, it wouldn't hurt to have a multi-user environment capable and running.
Oh, I think you're absolutely correct. So the Hollywood or the episodic television it's a tiny market compared to what Apple's main base is. But I think they're still paying attention to it. I think it's prestigious to get in there and get a few films. So I think they're not focusing all of their engineers on collaborative, but I think there are some people that are looking how to implement it the Final Cut Pro way, the Apple way. I think we'll see something.
I mean, I hope so. So I would say right now, I would say there's a 70% chance of Final Cut 10.4.1. I would say there's a 3% chance of collaborative workflow, maybe a 5% chance of a mixer, and a 1% chance of the Mac Pro. Of course, I'm pulling these numbers and these concepts out from the back of the swamp behind me. So who knows?
Well, I don't. When I said the mixer, that's like a big ticket item. I'm not saying that that'll come out of NAB, but I think that the possibility that they will release a bug fix and have some features at NAB, I think there's a good possibility of that, just because it's been so long. So
the big things I see them most likely doing with the bug fix, and it'll be logical to do it at NAB, is going to be so many new cameras. I don't know if Red is shipping yet their phone camera. But Red is, I think they just a couple days ago announced a new camera. And it's now a mad rush for all the companies to be the first to say they supported it. And that rush is going to be between Apple, Blackmagic, and Adobe.
I don't think Apple rushes that much, to be honest with you. Do you? They seem time.
Well, if you're trying to push the iMac Pro and that how great it is as a professional workflow, whoever comes out with that camera, the first big new camera, is a good person for them to want to work with. I know that they have a close relationship with Red. Yes. I'm sure that when the brand new Red, whatever comes out, boy, if it's not in that bug fix, there's going to be a full, a partial release that follows it.
But when Apple,
go ahead.
When Apple did their iMac Pro on their website, they didn't even mention Final Cut Pro.
Yeah.
So the iMac Pro is separate. I mean, it's part of Final Cut Pro, but it's also other applications can use the iMac Pro very effectively as well. So
sure, because there's nothing like that nothing like Microsoft Word needing that graphics card.
Exactly.
There's nothing like my keynote presentation, can run at 5,000 frames per second in its animations.
Yeah. I'm talking about NLEs and audio workstations. But I know what you're saying. I agree with you.
I know I don't disagree with you in the least. Except that, Apple has got a market advantage when it comes to designing their NLE.
Yes.
They control the hardware. Something's not working the way they need it to work for performance. They can pick up the phone call and talk to the programmer who can say, oh, we maybe can do this, or they can put a team that can get to low-level hardware, unlike any of these companies. They're the only ones developing for one CPU, for one operating system, and that gives them a market advantage. Apple performs better with lesser hardware than companies do.
Well, that's true, but that's one of the reasons I like Apple. Is the fact that they're doing the OS and they're doing the apps and they're doing the hardware all under one roof. I like that.
I think it gives them a certain advantage. It actually, in some ways, makes their hardware less expensive because it performs better at a lower cost. there are caveats there. You have to kind of work the Apple way, and some workflows don't always present that capability.
That's absolutely correct. So let's talk about NAB some.
Okay.
So I know you're teaching or you have a presentation at Faster Together, LumaForge's Faster Together. I think it's on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken.
That's a fine question. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I think you're right. It is on Wednesday. I think it's in the afternoon or right around noon. And I'll tell you what both of them are. One of them, let's see, you are, I think it is Wednesday. No, it is Wednesday. The first one is what has been interesting to me in the last year of Adobe Premiere Pro.
That's okay.
It's basically, I'm taking a look at the last year of Adobe's releases, and in about 20 minutes, going to go, I think this is sexy. I think this is sexy. I think this is sexy. I'll give you one, and it's actually not in the last year, but it's as close to magic from the Adobe workflow that I've ever seen. Are you familiar? Because I know you've got this great audio background. Are you familiar with Adobe Remix?
I've heard about that, and I was very interested in that. So tell us about it.
I'm going to do this in less than a minute. You ready?
Yep.
You take an piece of music, you take it over to Adobe Audition, you put it into a multi-track layout, you click on the music, you click a button that says Remix. It does a momentary analysis of the beat pattern and the tone at each beat, and then you can tell it how long you would like the music to be, and it figures out how to intelligently cut the music, keeping the beat pattern at the right tonal level. Now, that was a long way to say, that thing where you cut a piece of music, Richard, and you're trying to make it fit together? This is like magic. It is 4 clicks and done. It is, for me, one of the most magical things Adobe has done. It feels like Photoshop. What is it? They're intelligent replace. They're intelligent. I forget the proper name for it. So that's one of my absolute favorites in Audition, because there's not an editor out there who hasn't gone, this is the perfect piece of music. It's just a little too short or a little too long, and then has struggled to graft it into itself. And this is 4 mouse clicks. 4.
That's very interesting.
I have to tell you, Richard, I was like a child, like playing with a bicycle. The first day I could go, all I was doing, do this. How does it do that? Oh my God, it's amazing. So that's one of the things that I'll be covering in this past year in Premiere. The other one I'm doing is a bunch of thoughts about editing in Resolve. There is some real amazing magic in Resolve for getting just all of its color stuff. It's a really, really robust grown-up editor. I'm going to show you the 5 or 10 things that I think are amazing from the editorial point of view. And then I'm also going to mention the 3 things that are, when you first started playing with keywords, you said, what the hell is this? Right. I got 3 of those in Resolve. What the hell is this? The thing that makes Resolve crazy is, of course, its price is free. For $300, you get a much more robust system, but it is a powerful editor color corrector for the price of $0.
So do you like the NLE portion of Resolve? I've heard conflicting reports about that.
There we go. I'm waiting for our systems to come back. There, that's better. And I'll be talking about those 2 things on Wednesday at LumaForge's Suite.
Excellent. Excellent. So let's go back to Monday night. So LumaForge has mainly Final Cut Pro stuff on Monday at their Faster Together. They started, I think, 10 o'clock or 10:30 on Monday morning with a keynote by Sam Messman, our good friend Sam. And then they have Final Cut all day. And then at 5 to 6:30 is the FCP exchange. And they have normal things, like they have the Apple product marketing, which was a big draw for them. They have a couple of, I think, workflows and case studies on Monday night. But you may or may not know anything about this, and you don't have to say anything if you know. What's going on with Atomos this year? Something is going on with Atomos because they're at the FCP Exchange event. They're at the Faster Together stage, and they're at the Super Meet. Now, the other two could be any platform, but FCP Exchange, as far as I know, is only about Final Cut Pro.
I have no idea what Atomos is doing, and I have one of their recorders, up in the top of my equipment closet.
Right.
My guess is that Atmos is probably the best bang for your dollar to record directly in the ProRes. And I think that makes them a very natural Apple partner. I mean, if we go back to the DSLR days, but even today, if my camera doesn't record into ProRes or DNX, what can I can attach this $500 device, and now I have to do no transcoding, no rewrapping. I can get it at a higher quality than whatever the compression of the camera is. That's a no-brainer from a cost of a post-production workflow. So it's a natural. What I think that and again, this is my guess, maybe you know better, but my guess would be that they haven't had as much visibility, and that recording side of the market has gotten more crowded in the last couple of years, and they realized they needed to spend more on their advertising. But maybe you know something cool that's going on that I don't.
Well, I'm suspicious because they even came out and made some kind of an announcement about NAB. I'm not sure exactly what they said, but they said they have something very special this year. So I think it's more than just a recorder. Don't know for a fact.
Can't wait to see. Can't wait.
But the fact that they're at the FCP Exchange, that, like I said, that's typically a Final Cut Pro only event. Typically,
it's a very telling moment. Again, it's reaching their core audience.
Well, that's true.
But yeah, I can't wait to see what they're going to do. Of course, I'm going to be at the Super Meet on Tuesday.
What are you looking forward to see there?
I'm looking forward to see to be honest, all of the sponsors who couldn't afford an NAB or didn't think it was worthwhile to have an NAB exhibit on the floor. All of the speakers, I'm pretty sure I know personally all of the speakers. And they're all great people. I know Black Magic is going to, do something big, and that's Paul. I'm bringing up supermeet.com right now to see.
We can presume that there's going to be an update to Resolve. Typically, there is at NAB, whether it's a full point release or a 0.5 release or something. That's a pretty safe bet, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be beta probably. I don't know Dylan Ticknor, but I know Steve Holfish is interviewing him well. I know Paul and Mary. I'm going to, I don't think there's any real giant guess here. I think they're going to do more with Fairlight and Resolve. And they're going to be talking to the crew. Patrick Palmer, I'm sure, is going to come up and talk about what Adobe's, released this term. They likely will have an NAB release as well. I'll be very curious to see about what the HP NVIDIA is. My gut is they're going to do something with some remote workflows where I'm able to be in a different location than my editorial hardware. Frame.io, I think, is about to scan and come out with a new version. I think they announced that of their tool.
Yes, they did. Yep.
And I'll be curious. Let's see. Oh, you called it. Jeremy Young has told us he will be announcing the start of the revolution with key partners. This is the biggest thing we've ever done. It's industry changing. Hope it's not a segue, but I hope it comes out great. Making of Off the Tracks, Bradley's film.
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, that's a blast, but I know all of these people. Okay. I don't know Matt Carson. I'd like to meet Matt at some point. It should be a blast. And for those of you who've never gone to a Super Meet, it is a phenomenal Vegas show. I put it up there with like one of the Cirque shows or like Penn and Teller. And
Penn and
Teller never gave away $100,000 worth of product at the end of their show.
It's over 100,000, I think, at this point. Yes.
And by that point, I should be in 5 throes of exhaustion.
So Mike and Dan were on my show a lot last week or a week ago, 2 ago, and I said, well, tell me one thing. Can you guys win the raffle? They said no, but if we give you 10 free tickets, how about splitting the prizes with us? I said, there you go.
So you have to laugh. I've been to a couple of events, the Colorist Mixer, the Super Meet, where I've won stuff and I give it back. I don't believe, as a consultant, as being able to have involvement at these levels, that I have any business keeping these products. I don't want to give them away because then I show preferential treatment. I prefer to give them back and let them give them out again. I won at the Colorist Mixer the first or second year a control surface, Richard, and I gave it back.
Did you really?
And I gave it back. And you would think that gives me a lot of integrity. Turns out, no, I have none. I just didn't feel right walking away with it, and I gave it back. I've given. If you see me, in fact, there's a good piece. If you see me at the Super Meet and you mention Final Cut Radio, I am happy, if you're the first person, to give you my Super Meet tickets. Okay.
There you go. Final Cut Pro Radio. Grab Jeff and tell him that, and you get he'll give you the raffle tickets for Super Meet.
I'll give you my raffle tickets that they gave me when I got my ticket, when I got my badge. I will be happy. In fact, I have to miss probably the first hour of the Super Meet. So you'll be looking for me during the intermission break.
There you go. So is the Colorist Ball on Tuesday night?
I believe that's Monday night. I think Media Motion Ball is Tuesday. I might have that wrong.
Okay. So one of those two was Monday and one's Tuesday. So what are you going to the Final Cut Pro Guru Gathering by any chance?
I'm going to the Guru Gathering. Hold on.
Excellent.
I'm bringing up my party schedule. Let's see. There we go. One of the things today said, check my blood pressure. So let's see, the Colorist Mixer is Sunday night. The Guru Gathering is Monday night.
Yes, right after the FCP Exchange event.
Right. So I will definitely be at the Guru Gathering, but I won't have my Super Meet tickets then, so I can't give them out to anybody.
Right.
So that's a blast. I love Steve Martin for putting it together, and I can't wait to show up for that. And I'll probably be right at the beginning of that because, like everybody else, I'll be leaving the exchange.
Right. So Rob Fisher in the YouTube chat says, does anybody know if there's going to be any Final Cut Pro proxy management coming? Well, I hope so.
I hope so, but Rob, I don't think so. One of the things that I discovered, and I did the Linda class on offline online workflows with Final Cut 10. One of my pain points was if I created a QuickTime file and I put it in the correct folder inside of a library, Final Cut doesn't have the dark metadata to understand that's a proxy, because I've built, I think, better proxies you could use like on Dropbox.
Right.
But Final Cut won't acknowledge their existence. The only way to make it happen is to build all the proxies and then replace them with your own. And I think that's a terrible workflow.
Well, if Final Cut gave more options for making proxies, okay, than they have presently, something lower quality. For example, I'm shooting 4K, sometimes 5K with my GH5. The proxy is 2K. I don't want a 2K proxy. I want a 720p proxy.
You'd be happy with the 720p. You'd be happy.
Right.
Screen is this big. It's 400 really need the proxy to be much bigger than standard def. I'm right with you.
Right.
It was an absolute pain point for me. I think that's the secret for remote workflows, is having tiny proxies that can live somewhere else. And
the ability to relink proxies if they become unlinked somehow.
But that
because right now
that feels like a 10.5 thing, not a 10.4.
Oh, does it?
That's a big change, man. I mean, I've been asking for that one for a while. I mean, you can relink regular media. I don't see where relinking a folder of proxies, as long as everything's named the same and everything. But I would be curious to see what percentage of users have their media live outside of the library and not. Because my instinct is 2 million Final Cut users, 75% of them put their media inside the library because it's the way it's set up by default, and they don't need it to do anything else.
Huh. So
That's my gut. I might be wrong.
No, I agree. I know what you're saying. If they gave us like maybe 4 choices for proxies, you know, a lower quality, but also they really need to do a relinking for proxies. I don't care if it's internal. Yeah. I mean, external, obviously. So,
I mean, it's something that's missing. I would love to see them do that. It's an advanced workflow. I'd love there to be some sort of advanced workflow manager, you know, something that I could open up and do that. Hey, nuke everything I'm not using.
Right.
You know, something, they've got a database there and running. I think it could use a higher level of like query language than just a search.
Well, you know, I compare Logic and Final Cut features back and forth often because they're both pro apps. The last 2 pro apps that Apple has besides Motion and Compressor. Logic has that. They have a media management in the drop down, advanced media management. You can consolidate. You can get rid of stuff you're not using. Exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I would love to see that. You know, I would love to see a Final Cut Pro on the iPad. You know,
well, that has to be coming at some point. I mean, that's, you know, absolutely has to be coming at some point. I don't know if it's ready yet, but who knows? I mean,
you want the dream. The dream is that I could open up my iPad, plug in my Atmos deck, use my iPad to start scrubbing through and making selects, and kick out an XML that'll be recognized by Final Cut. So I'm out in the field, and all I'm doing is handling those existing SSD drives off to my editor.
Well, that's true.
That would be neat. I don't know. I'm trying to find a thread to pull everything together. But yeah, I agree with him. What was his name again? For the proxies on the YouTube.
Oh, Rob Fisher. Rob Fisher on the YouTube channel.
Rob, man, you and me both.
Yeah, I've seen all these different workarounds to working with proxies, but some of them are just like, I wish Apple would just take care of it. So, you know, I know they've heard that request. Other people have said it as well. So I'm sure they are working on that.
The people who, you know, have the greatest need of that are going to be the broadcasters, are going to be the people with film workflows and remote users. And those are each important audiences for them, but their major growth is the end user always. At $300, it just is one of the most capable editors out there.
Oh, $300. I mean, but $300 over 6 years, 7 years.
Right. I'd like to say $300 the first year plus $300 of plugins. And then every year you need to buy another $600 worth of software. Yeah,
you must be getting a discount if you only have $300 worth. I know you have more because you have more than that on your iPhone apps.
I do. I'm just of the belief, Richard, that Final Cut, like all these tools, isn't a buy once and done. There's so much great development out there in the Final Cut community, and there's so many great products that it's silly for anybody to just treat it as a flat cost of $300. Why not buy a couple key plugins that will save your behind next week time-wise?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know, my plugin folder, my effects folder in Final Cut is just crazy. I wish we had a better way to organize that.
Hey, you know what I could use? I could use some favorites. I would like to be able to star a bunch of them and just say, show me my favorites.
Well, how about just dragging and dropping like you can in the regular browser? Dragging and dropping it like exactly. Folders, make a folder, drag some things into the folder, or favorites folder, for example. Absolutely.
How about if I could have some keywords in my effects? So I could say, show me all my keying effects. Show me all my color effects.
There you go.
You know? Show me all my color fixes. I think that there could be, it's just such a tiny corner of the software with the search box. I'll tell you the thing that just along those lines, just as you mention it, I've been really impressed. I think it's part of Color Finale. They've got a LUT viewer. I'll give you some. I want a effect viewer. I'd like to be able to touch a clip, bring up a pop-up, and show me every one of a category of effect applied to that clip.
All at once.
All at once.
That's a great idea.
Long as I'm dreaming, right?
Well, doesn't somebody have that? Does Premiere have something like that? Or maybe I'm mistaken.
No, Premiere doesn't. Final Cut, as you touch a clip, will show you the results as you touch a given effect, but you have to wait for that preview. What I'm thinking about here is two different tools. The first one is Sapphire from Boris. When you use Sapphire Effects and you bring up their browser, and now they have the browser in Boris in BCC as well from Boris. When you bring it up, it's showing you a version of the clip you're touching of the effect category, and you're seeing every permutation laid out against visually. But where I love that the most right now is something called LUT Gallery from, I believe it's from Color Finale. And what LUT Gallery does is allows you to say, hey, see that folder of LUTs of all these looks I like?
Right.
Show me that clip with all of them visually. Oh, that's the version of cooled off shadows I'm looking for. That's the one I want. It's a great example of a visual interface used well.
Yes, I'm sure that would take a little bit of horsepower, but that's okay. We got the iMac Pro now.
Right? Who needs? Come on, we can do it off of a MacBook Air.
Okay. So you mentioned Final Cut on the iPad. What different would you like to see? I mean, you don't want the full version of Final Cut on the iPad. That would be probably too much. But we have iMovie though.
Yeah. The problem with all iOS apps for editorial is going to be the format of the video has got to be H.264 and invariably captured on the device. And the problem with that is pure. I'm out shooting with a camera. I now have to get it off that camera onto the iPad. That's a problem.
Right. That's true.
So my dream piece of hardware would be a hard drive that I could plug a lightning connector into a phone and go from there and have it recognize at least the H.264 media. I'd like it to have advanced titling. I'd like it to have some green screen capability. I'd like it to have not the huge organizational stuff, but allow me to do a quick string out beyond what I can do in iMovie. I'd like some pro level controls. And I think the iPad Pros are perfect choices for this. There's clearly going to be a convergence of the Mac OS, I believe, in 10, what comes after High Sierra? Is it 10.5?
Yes. Yeah, it would be 10.5. 10.5.
Right. 10.5. So then whatever comes out, no, I meant the Mac OS. I have to look. I think it's 10.15. 10.14. So
oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. After High Sierra, there's talks at WWDC of Apple beginning to converge the Mac OS and the iOS. Well, to me, the logical thing would be able to have some iOS, some Mac OS apps running on iOS and Final Cut just out in the field. Even if hey, let's put them all together. You ready?
Yeah.
I would like to be able to build proxies that could sit on my iPad so I could do some playing around of my media and seeing how my cut works with a pencil on one of the large iPad Pros. I would love that.
There you go.
You know, beyond that, I'm pleased to see Apple's commitment to HDR. I think that's kind of the way the future is for color, is deeper color display spaces. But NAB is going to be, you know, the madcap thing. Nobody knows right now what's going to be the hot thing at NAB.
What was the hot thing last year, in your opinion?
I would say for me, probably Resolve 14 was, I think, probably the big story. I think at the pro level, the other big story is HDR workflows. And Apple didn't have an HDR workflow until November with Final Cut 10.4.
Right.
Have you seen, in fact, I'll give you a great thing to go look at NAB. Before we do that, do you remember at the summit, but even after the summit, have you seen any of the better HDR screens?
Not in person. I've just seen them like on, you know, a video, somebody demonstrating one.
I want you to promise me, Richard, that you're going to go look at Flanders Scientific's booth at NAB.
I've heard about them. Yep.
Flanders is probably the most affordable color correction monitor you can get your hands on. But Flanders has got two screens I'd like you to see. First, they've got a screen that's got a 3,000 nit display. And you'll realize,
3,000. Wow.
Yeah. You'll realize you've never seen truly the colors red, yellow, and orange in high def or in UHD. It's the fact that we call them those colors is a lie. They also have a 65-inch, I think it's 1,000 nit screen, which can work as a client monitor. And you'll get why people think HDR is more important than 4K. And I totally agree with him. I think 4K is nice to be able to move around the pixels, or 5K is great to deliver 4K. But man, HDR is the bee's knees.
No, I agree with that. Absolutely. I mean, 4K is nice, but HDR and 4K is like, I think that's where we're headed. Well, plus Red, I think Red in Foxconn reportedly are teaming up to do a 8K prosumer camera.
Yeah, I mean Red has had a very tough challenge from Blackmagic, who have been making 4K cameras for a quarter to a fifth of the price. And while Red gets some cinematic love, they've lost their bottom end. And so between the phone and that camera, it'll be real interesting to see. Like, I don't think anybody's paying attention to how much damn storage we're going to need.
Well, yes, I agree. That's absolutely an issue.
Where are my boys from G-Tech? They should be coming out with us with better, faster drives. I think that they're always a great booth to see, because they seem to have a good set of eyes on professional systems beyond, say, SAN-based stuff.
Right. So so everything's going to be headed towards SSDs, I guess. Spinning drives have a limited lifespan. I mean, they work in RAIDs, obviously, and they're cost effective, but I would presume most things are headed toward SSDs in the future.
SSDs have just been coming down off their price high.
Right.
They're great, but they're super expensive even still. And
that's true.
I've seen some really gorgeous 4 SSD and 8 SSD arrays that totally saturate Thunderbolt 3.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. They're just not cheap. I mean, like, if you want to see a great example of some of the fastest stuff at NAB, open drives. I mean, they work on a lot of the Hollywood films because they're able to deliver an 8K uncompressed pipeline without a problem.
Wow.
They're not inexpensive, but for the market that they've shot for, they've hit home runs because they've got great engineering.
I'll be darned.
So yeah, I would tell you to definitely check out Flanders, definitely check out open drives, just to see what insanely fast and insanely bright look like.
But then you're going to say, oh man, I don't want to, my monitor is crap, right?
That's the grass is greener problem, man. You can always have a better camera.
When I go into a big, $1 million recording studio and I hear the beautiful monitors they have, I don't even want to go back and listen to my monitors anymore. I mean, they're so accurate. Now, most people don't have that. Absolutely. They're not going to have a 3,000 nit display, but for color grading and stuff.
I bet though that you've got phenomenal speakers.
I do. But the big studios, some of their speakers are $5,000 and $10,000 sets.
No question. But this is something that's really low hanging fruit. I'm about to mention. I don't know if it's still available. I think it is. You're familiar with the Sennheiser 650s?
Yes.
They're one of the few headsets that you could truly do a mix in.
Okay.
They're open back. They've got great sound. You may not agree with it. A lot of my Pro Tools, a lot of my audio friends go, look, I still want to check it on in a full room. Yeah. But if I'm going to mix with headphones, these headphones are normally $500-600 on mass drop. The 6XX, which just means they have a shorter cable, are like $200.
Wow.
I just bought a set, and the sound out of it is magnificent.
The main thing when you mix with headphones is you got to realize their limitations. They get rid of the coloring of the room, any reflections and all. They get rid of that. But you absolutely, I mean, when I mix an album, I listen to it on 6 or 7 or 8 different speakers, including these things. Now,
hold on a second. But what you just said, I'd like to reiterate for those of you who are working professionally. A professional sound person, Richard, goes, yeah, I'm going to do my initial mix in my room that's set up great. I'm also going to check it on earbud speakers. I'm going to check it on a generic set of headphones. I'm going to check it in most of the listening environments to see if there are any real problems.
And 2 more things. Listen to it on Auratones, which are just a 1 speaker, traditional, very mid-range speaker in mono.
Sure.
That's important. You listen to it in mono as well as stereo.
In the same respect, you want to check it on your picture on a laptop calibrated sRGB, preferably with the calibrator. Do they have picture as well as sound with us, right?
Yes.
It's good because I wanted to make sure because I was going to pick my nose. No,
don't do that now.
Right.
Save that for NAB.
For like $300, you can get a calibrator from X-Rite. And then you pick up a SpectraCal license, and suddenly your monitors all match and all have the right white point. I'm going to view stuff on here. I'm also going to view it on the Flanders. It's sitting right there in my office. I'm going to look at my footage in different environments to see what see if there are any problems. A known quantity, as well as a couple things that are off-brand.
Absolutely. Now, what is Apple coming out? They announced a Pro Display with the new Mac Pro. What are they going to come out with?
Is Apple going to come out with a Pro Display?
They announced it at they announced it when they announced the Mac Pro. They had that meeting, Phil Schiller and those guys. They said they also have a Pro Display.
I would imagine that they're just taking the display more or less. It's out of the iMac. I would assume that LG is manufacturing it. That it's going to cover, what is the one currently out? Covers, I think, DCI-P3 space.
Okay.
You know, it's the same sort of color space. It's on the iPhone 10 and I think the iPhone 8. I mean, that's where they're headed. They're looking to get beyond Rec 709 sRGB, which has been the standard for most laptops. They're going to have gorgeous looking color out. I be curious to see how expensive it is.
Oh, it'll be expensive. Have you ever had Apple had a new product and you go, man, that's cheap?
I don't know. That's a great question.
Except for Final Cut. Except for Final Cut.
You may have just. That's another very insightful question. No, not really. And I own like a Newton somewhere, and I bought a MacBook before. What was it? PowerBook Pro. Was that the first laptops? PowerBooks?
The PowerBooks, yeah. G5s, yeah. I think they were G4s, G5s.
Oh, no. This is the Motorola's. These were the Mac laptops going back to 2000.
I think I have one.
Yeah.
I keep it around because I can run QuickTime and I can do some other things that I can't do on the current. Run some software occasionally. Not Final Cut 7.
I've been an early adopter of all the Apple stuff. I'd love for them to come out with a monitor. I'd love for them to come out with a modular Mac with some choice of video cards.
Well, they announced the monitor, the Pro Display, and they announced a modular Mac. Now, they didn't say multiple cards, but obviously modularity suggests that they will have the ability to put different cards, and they have to. If they want to appeal to the pros, they have to have that feature.
So wouldn't that be great if they announced that at NAB?
I never thought about that, but that would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Apple product marketing team would. Well, it is the Apple product marketing, not Final Cut Pro product marketing. So who knows?
It just depends on the better place for them to really announce it would be WWDC.
Right. But they already, they already pre-announced it though. So.
Right, but I mean, the best place to show it first is to their developer community.
Yes.
I mean, you're either going to show it to the developers or the pros, one of the two.
Unless they want to come out early. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other NAB things are big. I mean, for me, the class that I'm most stressing about, I'm stressing a little bit about a couple classes. I'm teaching 13, including the two classes for LumaForge.
Now, wait a second. Wait
Yeah.
a second. So you're teaching 13 classes. So is FMC supplying you with oxygen? Is that part of your deal?
Oh, my Lord. They actually wanted to send me to Colorado first, really high up into Denver. So I could oxygenate better like an Olympian, so they could spend less money when I get to Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the one I'm looking at the classes I'm doing right now. The one I'm probably stressing about at the moment, right today, the most is probably the day-long VR post-production class, where we're going to start talking from the moment the camera gets turned off about stitching, about editing, about effects, about ambisonic sound. I've got a number of filmmakers coming in talking to us about their workflows and about where their struggles are in the VR post. Sunday, I'm doing a 75-minute class on budget. And here, because you're listening to Final Cut Pro Radio, is it Final Cut Pro Radio or Final Cut Radio?
It's Final Cut Pro Radio, and then this is the Final Cut Pro TV. This is the sister
Final Cut Pro
of
TV.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that for $100, you get your hands on one of these. You can take the footage right out of it. You got to throw it through a piece of software first, but then it goes right into Final Cut Pro. And then you pick up a $5 piece of Google Cardboard, slip your iPhone into it, and you can watch what you created out of Final Cut. You can even send it right up to YouTube. So that's a $100 cost. I can make it way more expensive, but that's my entry point. This is an adequate. It's not a phenomenal camera. I don't know that I would sell stuff to a client with it, but It is certainly enough that when you begin to move up to better cameras, you've got all the editorial and stuff worked out, where your biggest issue is how clean of a stitch and how clean can your shooting get.
Right. So I think we're going to see some surprises at NAB, Final Cut Pro related. I
hope so. I want it to be more than just the announcement. I'd love to see, I would love to see I'm really hoping somebody in the third party arena comes out with something we're just not expecting.
Right. That's what I mean. Besides the Final Cut Pro, any Final Cut Pro announcement, I mean, Apple, sometimes they start setting precedents. So last year they announced 2+ million seats. I would say it would probably be a safe bet they're going to announce an update to that number. I mean, that's just a minor thing, but
that just gets to be into a measuring contest with, and let's be honest, with Adobe. Because if Blackmagic were to come out and say how many people have downloaded their free software, they probably win that game.
Apple's doesn't compete one-on-one with these companies. They just do their own thing. I mean, they really do. They announced the 2 million because that's a nice landmark,
sure,
for them.
Well, it was because it was more than Final Cut 7 had ever sold.
Yes. And the problem with Adobe announcing numbers is they don't announce Premiere numbers. They announce Photoshop, After Effects, the Creative Suite numbers, not Premiere numbers.
The thing is that if you're in a facility that's using it's got to be very hard to be Avid right now today, because you're going to use Photoshop, you're going to use After Effects.
Yes.
Those two from the ride. So if you're Avid, it's a much more tumultuous world than it is if you're Apple. From Adobe, they certainly could announce it, but anything that doesn't make them look good, they should announce. That's good marketing. That's just plain good marketing, any way you cut it. So, I'm trying to think who we're not paying attention to in the third-party arena who's going to have something big. I saw that Phil Hodgetts, I saw they came out with something like Lumberjack Pro.
Lumberjack Builder?
Yeah, Lumberjack Builder.
Yeah.
What's it do?
It's editing via text transcript. So you can select text and it'll select the corresponding video file.
Gotcha.
Segment.
So it's doing what Avid's script sync.
Script sync.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And then I mean, if you've ever not seen the products, SpeedScriber does that, and so does Transcriptive.
Right, but
Transcriptive
do they overlap? Those four, do they overlap?
They overlap a little. Transcriptive works in Final Cut and in Premiere, but it works best with Premiere because you can embed the text directly into the file. Not a lot of people know that you can actually bring up the text and select it inside of Premiere and cut it to the timeline from inside of Premiere. I think Lumberjack Builder is trying to do the same thing. It does the speech transcription. You arrange the speech. It comes out, spits out a cut. SpeedScriber, I think, only does keyword based. It puts a marker for each word on the main clip, and then you can go and select those words. Media Composers is a lot extra, but there are two flavors of it. Script Sync, where you lay shots into a script and it aligns them. And the other one that makes Script Sync, the other friend of it, is Phrase Find, which is it's instantly in the background, analyzing the text, analyzing the sounds based on phonemes, and then you can type in a phrase and it can find it. Phenomenal for live-based, phenomenal for reality-based work where there's still not enough time to get an actual transcript.
Absolutely.
I think that if you're in the Final Cut space, you definitely, if you're doing documentary, transcription-based work, you have to responsibly try out Builder, try out SpeedScriber, try out Transcriptive to see which one works best with your workflow. Because once you have edited based on text, Richard, you can never go back to editing normally. You are forever damaged as a storyteller because you'll go, do you know how fast this would be if we just had this tool?
Now, the common, I guess it is an issue with all of these. You have to do the transcription first.
Not Avid's.
Not Avid's.
Not Avid's, but the other, I don't know about Builder yet. SpeedScriber and Transcriptive both use AI engines to do the speech recognition. And they hit generally, I think, somewhere around the 95% mark. Transcriptive has a neat feature where you can choose between one of two different engines, and one of them gives you like 1,000 minutes a month for free. The other gives you 60 minutes. The one that does 60 minutes is significantly a better transcribing engine. And I love Martin Baker. I love Digital Heaven. I think SpeedScriber is great. Its per minute price is way too high. To give you an idea, SpeedScriber is like 50 cents a minute, where Transcriptive is like 3 cents a minute.
Wow. Big difference.
It is a big difference. And they're using the same back-end engine. The big question I have is I haven't looked into what Builder does. I can't wait to see it. I know Greg, I know Phil Hodgetts. I think they're both very sharp people, and they bring in some great. So if they showed it at the LA user group last week, I'm sure it's a great tool.
Oh, I'm sure it is as well. Plus, they're going to show it at, I think, Monday at Faster Together.
Yeah.
So good to see it that. And I think Roger is showing his, is it Transcriptive? I think it's on Tuesday.
Transcriptive is from Digital Anarchy, which is Jim Tierney.
Okay. So whatever Rogers is, Roger Bolton's.
I have no idea. Does Roger Bolton
Scribomatic. Yes, Scribomatic.
So we now have 4 in the Final Cut community. Wow.
Yes. And I presume they're a little different. Each one's a little different, might have a different feature that you want. But once again, I've seen some cheaper transcription services, some very affordable transcription services. I think they're all above 90% accuracy.
Except that we want, realistically, that still means 1 out of every 100 words is, or 10 out of every 100 words is wrong, and that's barely a minute's worth of text.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not even
true.
a minute's worth of text. Realistically, we like to see the 99 percentile, and it's very rare unless a human being does it.
Right, that's very true. So you're going to be at FCP Exchange Monday night between 5 and 6:30, some point, right?
Yep.
Because it's right there in the future media corridors.
Yes.
Then you have a half hour to get over to the Guru Gathering.
Yeah.
Now the Guru Gathering, you're not going to teach anything at. I want to make that clear.
Steve,
don't teach anything. Don't plan on teaching anything there.
Steve Martin won't let me.
Exactly.
I would do it. Steve is such a great, forget how good the Ripple training stuff is. And just for those of you who are listening, or watching, just so you know, I have some very good stuff on Linda. I'm very proud of the stuff I have. Steve stuff is phenomenal. I love the stuff out of Ripple training. I love what he and Mark Spencer do. I just think they're terrific people. No, Steve is one of those people that I love having at the Final Cut Creative Summit, and absolutely have every intention of having him and Mark next year whenever FMC announces the Creative Summit happening.
Wait a minute. That was my big question before you got off here. When is the Creative Summit? I know you don't know yet. You can't say.
No. What are you kidding me? This is preaching to the converted. If I knew, what I should have been doing on this was I should have been texting the person at FMC who makes that decision and go, tell me the date. I don't know. But the moment I find out, Richard, I will see what I can do about letting the announcement come out from you with Final Cut TV.
Excellent. That'd be great. We'll get you back on for that. So if they have it again in October, that'll be fantastic. It seems to be a good time, whether or not there's a Final Cut Pro update. They will perhaps show us something if it is that time. I mean, they're not going to have it in December.
You're not going to do it in December. You can't do it in September because September is IBC.
And I doubt they're going to push it into 2019. I think they'll have something this year. This is me guessing from the outside.
Looks like the industry is moved to major updates on a yearly basis. If you look at all the tools, quarterly updates with one major update per year. If you look at Resolve, it's 14, 14.1, 14.2, 14.3. There was no fanfare about the other 3 releases. They just rolled them out. With Adobe, it's usually 2 to 3 releases for Premiere a year. Avid has been doing every other month a incremental release. Apple's only been doing, small. They've been doing a major release every other version, more or less. I would love to see them do good incremental releases, just like everybody else. Because if you had a bug right now for Final Cut 10, you are driven crazy that Apple hasn't dropped an update because of how good the new tools are, that you can't move over until I tell anybody, great, whoever came out with the new version, wait for the 30 days for the update. What do you do right now if you're an Apple Final Cut user? You're sitting on your hands and you probably jumped over because the update has been so good.
I jumped over.
Me too.
So yeah, people have been talking about some of the bugs, and of course, I believe that they're there. So that's why the peculiarity that Apple did not release an update in 4 months or be 4 months at NAB. That's why I think they're just saving it up for NAB. But it's not just a bug fix.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah, there you go.
I think they're going to have better. I'm playing with you now. I think they're going to have better proxy workflows and a roles mixer along with the Mac Pro, right? Because if you're the guy who announces all of the items, Richard, all they'll remember is the one you hit. They won't remember the ones you've missed.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. So, Jeff, you're teaching how many classes for Future Media Concepts besides the Faster Together?
I'm teaching 11 classes.
Wow.
And I will do them super fast. I'm doing a getting started in color in Resolve. I'm then rolling it right into editing in Resolve. I'm doing advanced strategies for video compression, VR on a budget. a panel of Premiere power tips, a VR post-production day, a panel on tips from on Resolve, a panel on our Avid power tips, creative transitions for Premiere Pro, and hands-on training color correction for editors in Resolve on Thursday. Today's Monday. It'll be a week from Thursday. Those are the classes, and then the two for the Faster Together suite for LumaForge on Wednesday.
Absolutely. So one of the things when you're at the Creative Summit, you and Abba Shapiro have a 1 million tips for Final Cut Pro users.
Yeah.
So remember, I recorded that last year for you.
You're a saint and a gentleman.
So when we get closer to the Creative Summit, maybe I'll pull a few snippets out and send them to you for approval.
You should. What we really should do is we should see the nature of the event is it's very hard for us to get such wide-ranging permissions to do anything live, but that would be a fun one to do live, for broadcast out to general. As long as I can avoid dropping any S or F bombs or anything.
Well, the thing is, though, people should come and see it live. Those are a lot of valuable tips. Now, I did put up your first one because I asked you, yep. And the first one was getting rid of Final Cut Pro 7. That was the first tip. Throw it in the trash can.
For the record, I moved over to High Sierra, and on one forum I'm on, like every couple months somebody would go, "Hey, could you convert this Final Cut 7 project?" And I'm like, "Sure, I still have it on here." I had to turn and put an announcement going, "I no longer have Final Cut 7. Nope, I'm not doing this anymore." Right.
Final Cut 7 was a great app in its day. It really was.
It was a great app. The thing about memory is when we look back at the past, we mostly remember the good things. We never remember. Do you remember what they called the media manager?
Mangler.
Yeah, it was the media mangler. It wasn't media manager. And the 3 wheels in Final Cut 7, they were so good you had to go to a product called Color.
Well, one more thing. At the top of the timeline was a little drop-down menu. It had the initials RT. Most people don't know that was for Richard Taylor.
I did not know that. I did not.
It was not for real time. It was for Richard Taylor.
No, that's a great answer. Yeah. No, I thought I knew everything. I now know. I thought I knew everything about Final Cut 7. I now know the best secret. I've been looking then for the RT menu in Final Cut 10, and I can't find it.
It's not there yet.
Not there yet. Maybe that's the other announcement.
It could be. Very well could be. Do you work with Logic at all? Ever?
I do not. I don't know that I could say I know anything about audio if I'm in the room with you, but if you're not in the room, I'm adequate as a mixer.
Okay.
I own 2 copies of Pro Tools that I've never opened.
Wow.
Where I ended up with a dongle. I probably, at this moment, if I was going to dig deep into a DAW, a digital audio workstation, I've dug deep into Audition, and I'll probably be digging deep into Fairlight. Just because it looks like Blackmagic is giving a lot of flexibility directly inside of an NLE.
Right. Yeah, I like what I saw last year, but I've heard maybe it's not ready for prime time inside of Resolve yet. The Fairlight edition.
Inside of 14, no, but
14. Well,
yeah, it takes. Yeah.
Do you know anything?
I absolutely will tell you I know nothing. I will absolutely say for sure I have no idea beyond a guess that last year, the last couple years, they have announced the beta at NAB. The thing and look at any major area that they were going to improve upon.
Well, they even their first time they came out with the camera was a beta for a while.
So was Red.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Right. In fact, Red is right now asked people to put down what is it? Is it $1,000 for their phone before it's come out?
Yeah. Well, is that going to be 4K or what is that going to be?
Who knows? Who knows? Look, I don't know that 4K is that necessary. I would take an Arri camera every day of the week, and it only shoots like 3K.
I agree. What I found more important with my GH5 is 10-bit.
10-bit is probably the, for me, the single. When somebody says they'd like me to color grade something, I go, well, what format was it shot in? And it was shot in 8-bit or 10-bit. And if it's shot in 8-bit, I'd rather say no, unless they're just because I can't. I'm just so much more limited. And for those of you who struggle between the two, I'm going to make the math easy. There are approximately 250 steps between black and white and 8-bit. There are approximately 1,000 steps between black and white and 10-bit. And yes, you got it right. There's 300% more steps in 10-bit. So when Richard says 10-bit's a big deal, I go, it's not a 20% or just going from 8 to 10. It means that there is 300% more luminance data available to you to unscrew up your blown out, underexposed footage.
So you know Mark Bach, colorist?
I don't know Mark Bach, the colorist.
He's going to be at the NAB this year. I've had him on the Final Cut Pro radio a few times. He explained it this way, and it makes perfect sense, just like you just did. Do you want to color with a box of 20 crayons, or do you want to color with a box of 100 crayons? All of them had red, green, and blue, but the box 100 has a lot more gradients.
I like that. That's really strong. That's really strong. Yeah, I would make the numbers 25 and 100, but yeah. There
you go, 25 and 100.
Right, just because then it matches the actual comparison. Oh, I like that better than the one. I may have to steal that, and it's Mark Block.
Bach, B-A-C-H. M-A-R-C, B-A-C-H.
If you see him and you see me, please introduce me to him.
I most certainly will.
I need to credit him every time I say those exact words.
I most certainly will. So somebody asked, Rob Fisher asked in the YouTube chat, is there any chance that there will be recordings of the events around NAB? I know LumaForge is recording all of their Faster Together. They're doing over 30 events in 3 days, 30 sessions in 3 days. They're recording them multi-camera, the 3-camera setup. Blackmagic has donated, I think, 2 of those cameras, plus an ATEM switcher, because last year Patrick said he did an HDMI switcher, which was the bane of his existence. So now they're doing SDI. That won't, they're going to record that, but they have to be edited multicam, and they're going to come out, a month, 2 months, 3 months later. They'll be coming out as they get them finished. So Michael Cioni's there again.
Phenomenal.
Jeff, did you know that?
Phenomenal guy. He is a master of some of the workflows out there.
But the FMC, they don't record their sessions because they want you to get there live. They want you to fill a seat up.
Well, there's 3 or 4 reasons to it. The biggest is that it's so much more limiting to professionals to be able to say to them, you need to find clearance for all your footage beyond a teaching stage.
Yes.
And that's a major issue. The other is they want you physically present because they feel that this content in some ways is lightning in a bottle, that you're not going to get this content anywhere else. You're not going to get vetted, tight presentations. And for them to give it away, especially on YouTube, it'd be great if I was at home and I couldn't get to NAB, but realistically, they're saying, like, you're at NAB. That's why they have the training there.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the battle. I wrote an article last year at South by Southwest about why I go to conferences. And the why is more to do with the meet space, the meeting other professionals, than anything else. But I'm blown away anytime I get a chance to sit in on any education, because the day I stop learning is the day my brain starts dying.
There you go. Now, I will be broadcasting some live streams at NAB, but it's going to be behind the scenes. It's going to be stopping and talking to somebody that I'm going to interview for 5 or 10 minutes. It's mostly going to be Final Cut Pro centric stuff, because that's what I'm going there for. I'm not going to do the sessions. It's too much. It's not what I'm there for. I mean, just the same as I don't do them at Creative Summit.
It's really okay. The thing that I have to constantly remind myself is I am just flesh and bone. There's only so much I can do. Stick to the things that are important to me versus saying yes to everything. Although when Patrick and Sam called up and said, would you do this? Would you do a session for us again? I said, well, sure I can. But what do you want me to do too?
There you go.
Only now am I regretting that.
Because of all your other sessions at Future Media.
Well, yeah. I mean, the sessions I'm doing at Post-Production World, the running joke I have is back in November, December, it looked like I could handle all of it. And here I am the Monday before, because I fly Thursday. All I'm doing, as soon as I get off this with you, I'm just going back to work. And I'm going to try to get as little sleep as I can between now and Thursday. You're
going to try intentionally?
I have no choice.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, my family's not here right now. They're at my in-laws.
There you go.
I'm no fun to be around near NAB time.
You shipped them out.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to say, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
As I'm a Final Cut Pro trainer. I've been since version 5. I went to Apple in New York headquarters and got trained there as a trainer. And so I've taught myself. I, of course, have seen lots of presentations by different trainers. You are absolutely one of the best. Absolutely, hands down, one of the best.
When you have a chance, would you write down 3 people who you think are in that league so I can go watch them and steal from them?
Well, you know Steve Martin.
Steve Martin, I steal from all the time.
There you go.
I think Steve is amazing. I think there's so many great instructors in this area. Thank you so much for the kind compliment.
Absolutely.
I probably, part of what does it is I tend to kill myself before an event and pour my heart into those sessions. I'm sure it has something to do with it.
Absolutely.
I am touched and humbled by the fact that you said anything, though. That was very kind. I will buy you next time I see you. Beer is on me.
Coffee. I drink coffee.
Next time I see you, good coffee is on me.
Good coffee. Like we talked when we were on Final Cut Pro Radio one time. One of the things that I bring to NAB is my AeroPress. And a pour over kettle. So,
yeah, absolutely. I had some coffee downstairs, and I'll be having some more in about 3 hours as I search for my optimal caffeine threshold to survive before NAB, much less NAB.
Absolutely, Jeff.
Yes, there's an app for that. It's called, I think it's caffeine something, where you tell it your body weight, how many milligrams of caffeine you ingested. It goes, a cup of coffee is about 200. And then it tells you when the caffeine's value is dropped low enough that you should have another cup.
I don't need an app for that. I can tell, but I mean, I can drink coffee and go to sleep right afterwards. It doesn't really affect me that way.
It certainly helps me in the early mornings. That's all I can tell you. Good coffee makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. So, Jeff, I guess we've said it all for this session of NAB and Final Cut Pro and Future Media Concepts and LumaForge and FCP Exchange, Post-Production World.
Here's the my baby aside from the Creative Summit is the Editors Retreat.
Yes.
The Editors Retreat is going to be in July this year. You can go to editorsretreat.com to find out about it. We have 2 keynotes this year. Do you know Norm Holland?
I know the name. I'm not sure why.
Norm Holland is one of the professors at USC.
Okay.
He cut a number of films, including Heathers. The thing that I'll tell you about Norm is he is just such a great teacher that he's going to bring that to the Editors Retreat. He wrote this great book. He's got some great training on Linda about the lean forward moment, the moment in a scene where the audience gets interested and leans forward. He's just got such a handle on editing. And in a lot of ways, he shaped for the 20. This is a guy who's had a real touch indirectly in the films we all watch. The other guy we're going to have is Kevin Ross. He was one of the 2 key editors on this little show called Stranger Things. He's done a lot of other things, but Stranger Things was the thing that, I mean, that was really such a breath of fresh air in storytelling. At so many levels, and I think their editors really helped make those stories come alive. So those are our 2 big keynotes. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to just start doing announcements at NAB. But if anybody is interested, please reach out. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll probably come and want to chat you up about the Editor's Retreat sometime in May.
So where is it this year?
It's in Atlanta.
Atlanta.
And there's some special stuff because it's in Atlanta. It's July in Atlanta. It's hot. Most of the time we're going to be in conference rooms anyway. But
Right.
It should be a blast. We're going to be talking about some artificial intelligence stuff. We're going to be talking about HDR. We're going to talk about editing. We're going to talk about the creative side. In fact, the creative side is probably its biggest significant difference than anything else out there. Is there's a lot of talks just on creativity in and of itself. We're also going to do something kind of wild as an exercise. Choose your own adventure in editing. We're going to get through edit stock, 4 or 5 different genres, and we're going to let everybody create a cut from those 4 or 5 different items, and we all screen them on the last day to sit back and see as an editor how we all approach the same footage, the same stories, different ways.
Yes, that's always an interesting subject.
It's certainly something that's really hard to do at most events, is how do we sit back and talk about the creative side of these tools? Well, that's what the Editor's Retreat was born of. The idea that it's agnostic, but that we all are sitting back and trying to tell stories with a beginning and a middle and an end.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff, I think we've said enough.
Yes, sir. It's always a joy.
Absolutely. NAB is, I got to leave Sunday. I don't know when you're leaving.
I'm leaving Thursday. I have 3 days right now.
Oh, you got weekend stuff, don't you?
I start Saturday. Yeah. No rest for the wicked or the damned, and I'm both.
There you go. Jeff Greenberg, everybody. At Film Geek on Twitter. That's probably the best place to find you, I guess.
Absolutely. My website is J Greenberg Consulting, the letter J Greenberg, BERG, consulting.com. If you tweet me at NAB and I'm at an event with you, I'm happy to chat about anything you'd want to, because I'm going there to meet people and be social, not to stay in my editing suite.
There you go. Very good, Jeff. I will see you in a week.
Thank you, sir. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to buy you some coffee.
There you go, Jeff. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, Richard.
Bye.